Friday in Simpsonville, South Carolina, and we're talking about the family as we look at Valentine's Day, and we'll be moving through the 5 areas of conflict. We looked yesterday at conflict that comes from relatives and relationships that we get with relatives, and we said the way to fix those problems was Proverbs 1:5. We need to pray. We need to empathize, that is, put ourselves in the other person's position. We need to forgive, and we need to get perspective on how important it really is. And then we need to strive for peace as much as is in our power. Those were the answers for taking care of problems with relatives. Today we want to look at communications. And very often it's a lack of communication. Sometimes it's an attitude. I don't know how many times you've said to one of the family members that you have, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. And so many of us get into that problem. The scripture verse for today is Proverbs 4, verses 1 and 2. Remember, we said that Solomon collected and wrote a number of proverbs to help us through life. And again, we find some good answers for communications in Proverbs. It says, "Hear, O sons, the instruction of your father, and give attention that you may gain understanding. For I give you sound teaching. Do not abandon my instruction." We need to listen to the training and the thoughts that our parents give us. Many times we think we have all of the answers, particularly when we're teenagers, and we don't think our parents know anything, but our parents have lived longer than we have, and they've experienced the positives and negatives of a lot of different paths. So we need to be sure that we understand what they're trying to teach us, and that we continue to listen to their instruction. So in communications, that's a very important thing. But Proverbs 12, verses 17 through 19 gives us a lot more advice about communications. It says, "He who speaks truth tells what is right, but a false witness is deceit. There is one who speaks rashly like the thrust of a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Truthful lips will be established forever, but lying tongue is only for a moment." So here we find again in communications the very important principle of speaking truth. And we know that falsehoods and deceit, I also say that at times half-truths are worse than lying outright, because you lead somebody to believe something when in fact it's just a half-truth. And it says when you speak rashly, when you speak with false witness, it's like a sword. It does a lot of damage. But the tongue of the wise brings a healing. Truthful lips will be established forever. Lying tongue is only for the moment. So we've not only got the principle of listening to the instruction of older and wiser folks, but we also have the truth that when we communicate, we need to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. And we know that it will bring a healing and not thrusting like a sword. And then finally, Proverbs 19:20, we need to remember that that has a very good and important principle for us in communications. "Listen to the counsel and accept discipline, that you may be wise the rest of your days." Communications is two-way. Communication is not only speaking, but it's also listening carefully to the other person. And I know that many times women accuse their husbands of not listening, and many times husbands accuse their wives of talking with such blasts of discussion that they can't get a word in edgewise. So we need to remember that listening is an important part of communications, and if we want to communicate with our children, with our loved ones, we need to be sure that we not only talk, but then we give them a chance to speak as well, and then we can listen to what they have to say. So what are the fixes for communications? Well, again, we have 5 points. Speak when spirit-filled. What does that mean? Well, be careful that you are filled with the Spirit of God when you speak, so that the words that come out will be righteous words and will be said in love, and speak in the right place. We want to be sure that when we talk, we communicate in a place that will not embarrass those that we're talking to and not in front of others. Speak at the right time. Sometimes it's better to let things cool off a little bit before we speak, and to not add to argument, because sometimes we say things that we shouldn't say and that we regret later. And so we have speak in the right place, speak at the right time, speak only when spirit-filled, listen and empathize, try to understand why the person is saying what they're saying, so that we finally come to point 5, which is to understand the other person's position, to be sure we understand what's going on. I heard a funny story one time about a father whose son came to him and said, where do babies come from? And he drug out all of the books and all of the drawings and all of the sex education material that he had when he was in school, and went through in detail form. And when he got all done, his son said, oh, well, I thought that we came from Ohio. So he wasn't really looking to see what the physiological way of reproduction was, but he wanted to know, where did he come from as far as where he was born, what city was he born in. And remember, finally, if we lack wisdom, James 1:5 says, but if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him. So we need to ask God when we need to communicate exactly how we should communicate. Hope that you'll communicate well with your mates, your children, and all of your relatives, remembering to listen as well as to speak, using all of the principles, spirit-filled, right time, right place, listening, and trying to obtain an understanding of what they're trying to say to you as well. And that makes it a closed-loop communication. That's your thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day.